Hey guys, so I'm going to show you my Deadshot build for today. It's a fire build. I've used this build for a little while now, and I'm really happy with it. It seems to work on a lot of different episodes. Um, I find fire and craze are the two probably the most useful afflictions, but I find fire seems to work better for me. I don't know with this build. It's working great. So it's going to start with Master 5 Firefly Pyromaniac. Uh, this is one of the only weapons that has a relatively good mag size, 70, and a good rate of fire, pretty decent rate of fire. So you don't have to reload as much, and you can really tear into enemies with that. And every single bullet, a critical hit because Deadshot has high crit chances. Um, Basically, that you can pretty much burn enemies pretty easily. And then I have the bonus, the 50% damage to burning enemies for that. 20% assault rifle damage. You can use crit damage as well if you want to. If I find the assault rifle damage percentage helps me out well. The 50% damage to burning, obviously, once you burn the enemies with this, it's a single-use weapon. You can pretty much burn any enemy, and then you get 50% damage on top of that to burn as well. And you'll see that with my grenade too that I have, it's excellent. Next weapon is a tier 2 Two-Face, just because we want the burning this perk. I think the tier 2 Two-Face has a nice little burn perk here that you can take off 10% of their max health, which helps in any damage. It's not necessary, but it's a good little perk. But I also use it for the synergies, obviously, which I'm going to get to in a second. Which brings me to the reverse flash. So the reverse flash, I use it for the synergies mainly, not really for the electrified enemy with a melee attack. Um, I have the melee increased melee damage, obviously the 49% suicide strike damage. I prefer that when I use my suicide strike. The last perk is helpful for me because I'm very aggressive in my attacking. So I die a fair amount sometimes, but having that melee, having shield regenerate melee hit has saved me many times against those snipers and things. So I play very aggressively, and as a result, I like to have that extra 5% regeneration on melee hits every time I throw in a grenade. I'll hit some melee, generate some shield, and throw more grenades, etc., and rinse and repeat essentially. But the main reason why I use reverse flash is the perk here, which is the Two-Face and reverse flash synergy. Each time you deal damage or take damage, there's a 10% chance you suffer a mental break. That that effect increases all damage you deal with by 400%. So 400% bonus damage or extra damage. Although it makes you a little bit weaker, you have a 100% chance, increase your chance of taking damage by 100% or increase the damage you take. So, but I find it works very, very well, even though I'm more sensitive to damage. And probably the main, I guess, item of the build is the corrupted heatwave incendiary charge. So there's a regular one, obviously, which does, I believe, 250% damage. This one does 500% damage and launches enemies in slow motion, which is amazing because obviously when you launch enemies in slow motion, they can't even attack you back, and they're super vulnerable, and they're also vulnerable to 500% more damage. And because I have Two-Face and this is a heat wave grenade rather than a firefly. Remember, my assault rifle is a firefly, so I have the firefly Two-Face synergy. And by using a heat wave grenade, because I used to use the firefly grenade as well, by using the heat wave grenade, we get another synergy, which is Raging Inferno, which basically burns everything within 30 meters of you, which is excellent for this one. The perks I put on, I like explosion radius just to give me a larger radius, grenade damage, and since Deadshot is pretty much always airborne, 40% grenade damage while airborne. So that's a pretty nice. This one you can actually get it from. You can now get it. Before you used to have to run the Brainiac missions, kill Brainiac mission, but now you can actually take your chances and create new items with Penguin. It costs a lot of resources, but it's worth a try. And I've been pretty lucky. I got a few of them. I think I have 4 or 5 of them now for my other guys as well. So my other characters as well. So this one, the next one, I don't see too many people using this in a lot of builds. I looked at a lot of builds. I have a tier 3 shield, a Bane tier 3 shield. It's only because of the first perk, which is you deal 4% more damage to each enemy for each 1% of the health that's missing. So with that Firefly assault rifle, you'll see in some of the videos that I'm going to show you in a second that that I can, some of my bullets hit for 1,000,000 damage. So, and that damage starts increasing as the villains start losing health. So I tried a few other things. I tried the poison ivy, the two gear poison ivy perks and stuff, and I guess since they nerfed the burn, I don't think it works as well for me anyway. At least the way I play the game. So I like this one a lot. It helps me. It's helped me a lot. Do a lot of damage. And then I got the corrupted steel jacket brittle bones. The original steel jacket brittle bones has 500% damage that it gives you, but you take 200% more damage when you're grounded. Actually, 200% more damage in general, not when you're grounded. In general, this one's beautiful because it does 2,000 damage. If you're in the air, for every second you're in the air, you get 100% up to 2,000, and you only start taking damage if you're grounded, which is barely ever for Deadshot. So this one take 100% more damage doesn't really apply to Deadshot too much, which is great. Then I have my tier 1 Bane. I always have a tier 1 Bane just for the perk of being able to generate some grenades. So I do a lot of melee with Deadshot as well, and while I'm meleeing it, I get a 50% chance to drop a grenade ammo, which is very helpful for me because this is surrounded around. It doesn't necessarily need the grenades, but it's surrounded around grenade damage, followed up with my assault rifle, and also some melee to generate some grenade ammo. And the last one, Jinx Unlucky Coin. You can probably use some other things here maybe, but I really like this Lucky Coin because it already gives you 250% increased damage to afflicted enemies, but as we run to Diablo Blaze, then it becomes 1,000, the 750 plus the 250%. So I like that one a lot. My talent trees, if you want to see.
Let's see if we can bump you up to
I'll
world's
quickly
number 2
show you the
assassin.
talent trees. You can see all of them. You can get at least get the pattern. So if you're watching the video, you can pause it here and check out all the talent trees that I have. Most of them are surrounded around crits, critical hits, and critical hit chance and critical hit damage. But there's a few obviously that are very helpful as well. But I won't go into that too much. So I'm going to show you. I'll show you one mission with some big enemies, and another mission with smaller enemies but many. So I'm going to show you the big one first, which will go with the bomber boys, the shoots and leaves, and you'll be able to see that right now. So. And you can also take note of the damage numbers as well. So they might start off relatively low, but after with the Bane, that Bane tier 3 perk, you'll start to see. And also, I'm gonna die. I might die. I might not die. But I die once maybe. Sometimes I don't die at all on the mission. Sometimes I die once, or just because I'm very aggressive in the way that I play. So, like with Deadshot, you might think I stay far away, but I don't actually. I dive in like a grenadier, pretty much, and then hit them with melee, generate some shield, and then do more damage with grenades. So I try to generate as many grenades as possible. So that's why I have the Bane tier 1 as well, gear as well. So let's see how this one goes. I have other videos. I already have a video of this mission before. Tons of damage, 1.6 million. So I don't know if everybody else has these damage numbers. And by the way, I've done all my missions solo, which is why I haven't hit the mastery levels. I think the highest mastery level hit in some seasons is 700 or 800. That's because I haven't done any. I don't have a clan. I just do my own missions. So let's go have a look. We'll get into my Suicide Squad. I'm gonna go slow just to show you. So you see the damage. I throw another grenade. Now you'll see the damage go up to 1,000,003 just per bullet. So, and that's the Firefly assault rifle that's doing that, along with all the bonus perks that I have for it. So you see how the damage is going up, and the Bane is also doing that because the more damage lost, or the more health lost by the enemies, the more damage I do because of that Bane perk. So, the only weakness to the build, you want to call it a weakness, is this, okay, which is sometimes it takes a little while to break through those, break through those Green Lantern shields, but at the end of the day, it's not that big a deal, to be honest. And the damage that I do far outweighs that damage. So I good with that.
Putting them down low.
So you can see he can really shred. These are big enemies, and they're being shred through very, relatively easily with this build. So I'm really enjoying it a lot.
Engaging facility.
Satisfying when you have a nice build. Of course, there are many other different types of builds you can choose to do. That's your choice.
Come on, not now.
This is my. I think I've tried a few builds, and this is my. I even try a lot of craze builds. Like for episode 8, it seems to be surrounded around Green Lantern, shielded enemies, and craze. And so I tried the craze build. My other craze build now is very good, but it still does good damage. Don't get me wrong. So far, it's taken me up to mastery 600 or 700. I haven't gotten stuff, but I can easily. I have a lot of room to spare damage-wise to get to 1,000. You see each bullet doing about a million damage. Okay. So also, since I've played a lot, I've also bumped up my suicide my team suicide regeneration rate. I bumped up that. I bumped up a lot of other things that my team suicide. It regenerates very quickly. So see, now I'm out of grenades. It doesn't happen very often. It happens once in a while, but I can still hold my own with the damage from the bullets. And even if I don't, I start to melee, and I'll generate some grenades. So I have one grenade now.
Damn it!
So I'm getting kind of distracted at the same time, but I'm not a very good multitasker. But trying my best to explain everything here. So right now it's only about 400,000 or 500,000. Now if I throw another grenade into it, which I don't have, but if I did, all that damage is going to double once I do it. But look, even without that, I can still finish him off relatively quickly. There's still a lot of playroom with damage-wise as well. Like it doesn't have to be perfect settings for everything to happen. So 1.6, 1.7. Slicing through. Well, that's bullets from my Pyromaniac fire solid. Five more guys left. So now you can see the Inferno is in here now. These guys take a lot more damage too when they fire.
Fast, lethal, and on an upward trajectory.
Get back in. I just had finished my team suicide. 3 or 4 seconds later, it was ready for again. So another thing too. They enables me to play very aggressively because once I get into my team suicide, I can be very aggressive. There's only 2 more enemies left. See there on the left is a Green Lantern shielded enemy. I hate these frozen things that keep knocking over. Actually, to me, that's one of the most annoying things about this game. These artificial mechanics. Almost died yet. So when you play aggressive like me, I don't really look at where those icicle things or those frozen things are coming. So get thrown back without even looking. I'm too busy trying to go after the enemy, so that happens, I guess. One more guy left. So he's shielded. So I broke the shield with that doesn't always happen very easily. Like I said, there's a small weakness to the build, but it's not that major of a weakness. Look at the damage, 1.2 million each bullet. And you can throw these guys off. You have 70 bullets in your mag before you have to reload, so I love this one. And not only that, it burns enemies. Every bullet burns, every critical hit burns enemies. Excuse me, not every bullet, but every critical hit burns enemies.
You just can't finish a fight.
With a high crit chance that Deadshot has in its talents, along with some of the weapons, you're practically burning almost every single time. And not only that, even if you're not burning every single time, being able to fire 70 rounds at a very high rate of fire, 750 rounds per minute, eventually you're going to crit a lot, but you're going to get enough to burn
reinforcements should make short work of those earthlings.
So right now I'm in the process of farming things because I want to eventually go to Penguin and try to get more corrupted gear. So I'm farming episode 7 here at mastery about 450, 460. I'm still trying to bring my mastery up as well, but it's mainly so I don't really need any gear at this point.
And all mine.
So I'm just going to basically destroy all these and grab all the resources pretty much as well. Shield points available, so I'll take my last shield point. I've been just topping up this shield overcharge. Just finished, so 40 out of 40 for 40% shield overcharge. So just to show you, I have a few. I don't know if the last update or the update before, I can't remember. They gave some bonus XP, so I used it a lot. Most of it was for resource generation or suicide strike or team suicide strike resource generation, those types of things. So I can constantly be in my team suicide strike, or relatively constantly. And that allows me to play very aggressive and use the high round of fire for my firefly weapon. So I'm gonna show you another one. I'm gonna show you another level, but with a different sort of mechanic in a sense, where there's gonna be more enemies, but those enemies aren't as strong. So I think I guess we'll do. I'm just trying to see where I am with some of my mastery levels here. Yeah, okay, so we'll go with clicking at windmills. So just to show you a different level type anyway. These are just not as big enemies, but a lot more of them. So hordes is pretty much a horde level. Whereas the other one I showed you before, bigger enemies and a lot less. You see? So you'll see that this build is viable for. And I've tried this build on many different episodes. I went back. I even did it on episode 3. It worked great. It's still working great. I did an episode 6. I'm having problems. I went back to episode 6. I'm not at really a. I didn't play this game when it first started. I waited almost 9 months or 8-9 months. I think I started in October when I played October or November this game. So, so I went back to levels to get gear, and so had some trouble with this build at episode 2. But I'm on Mastery 700 or Mastery 690, something like that. And for some reason, I don't know, there's something wrong for me. I do damage, but it doesn't really move the damage meter very much. So I don't know if that's a bug or not. So that happened in episode 2. But every other episode that I've played, which I played all of them except for, I think, episode 4, which is the Captain Colden thing. I didn't find any good. I looked at the weapons. There wasn't anything that really attracted me to playing that level. But I might just play this for fun or to farm later. But I played all the other episodes, and I've used this build in every single episode, and it works great in all the episodes so far. So rather than I've tried builds depending on the weapons that are given on each episode, but
you feel that distant rumble.
My goal was to really try to get it all in one sort of build. That would be good for pretty much every episode. And don't get me wrong, I still have my other builds that I made for each character too, multiple builds. But I find this one for Deadshot is by far the best, the most versatile, as far as versatility, as far as which episodes it works great under. But again, I have my crazy build set up if I need it for Deadshot. I also have other builds for other. I don't play the other characters as much, but while I was getting weapons and while I was getting gear, while playing Deadshot most of the time, I collected all the gear and I put together some builds for the other ones. Even though I'm not as good with the other players, I'm pretty good with Harley and Deathstroke and a few other characters. But that's the Deadshot. Deadshot, that's all I made. But see all the damage now. So obviously one of the disadvantages of a fire build is it gets rid of shield harvesting. See, so you see that there's not much place for shield harvest. Although it does happen because if I'm using my melee, I can get shield harvest, and then I can shield harvest. And sometimes I get shield harvests in 10 millions, maybe even more. And I don't need it that much, but it comes. And if I want to, I can always change to my two-face weapon, which doesn't burn right on contact with bullets. And then I can get the shield harvest from there if I need to as well. So there's a lot of versatility with the shield harvest. This is definitely not a shield harvest build per se. So you see there's a shield harvest there, but since I burned, I lost the shield harvest there, but that's okay. Because it did no damage anyway, but I could always switch to my two-face weapon if I want and start getting shield harvesting if I need it, but I really never really need it. Being in my team soon. Look, I just finished my suicide strike, team suicide, and now it's replenished. It doesn't happen like that all the time, but there isn't much time that I'm out of my team suicide. That's why I suggest that you build up your regeneration rate for your team suicide strike. That's important. Anyway, for me anyway, the way I play. See, I'm not really running away from any enemies. I'm kind of going towards them. Okay, so I'm out of grenades again. Let's see now I'm going into melee. And I have my tier 1 perk, tier 1 Bane perk, Venom Tolerance.
Make sure he can't reload.
I'm going to try to get some back. And you can see that not yet. Sometimes I have bad luck sometimes. Even though there's a 50% probability to get one from the melee, I sometimes have bad luck. It takes a little while, but that happens very rarely. So see right now I have a grenade back. And you see the Firefly assault rifle just rips through anything. So I have one grenade right now. I'm just checking my grenade tally here. I'll probably my melee a bit if I can. I'll generate some grenades. And that's why, for me, that tier 1 Bane Venom Tolerance neck bomb mod that I have, that's important to me. One of the more irreplaceable ones there. And now I used to have a two-face Persuader melee weapon.
I got it, and I know.
And that allowed me that once I praise enemies, I can generate grenades every time I do a melee. Hit and kill, I forgot what it is. But once I went fire build, that wasn't really viable to use that. So right now you see I'm getting hit by snipers, okay? And I might die, obviously. But what's keeping me alive, now I just die, but what's keeping me alive is the melee perk that I generate shield on melee. So that's what kept me alive for a while this time. I usually don't play that aggressive. I just wanted to show you guys that perk that I have on my melee to generate shield on melee hits actually stay alive. I don't stay that long normally, but I don't stay that long and hang there that long, but I usually drop a grenade and then get away after a while, but it's occasionally. There's a shield harvest. See 11.3 million on a shield harvest. 14.3 million on a shield harvest. So those are pretty good shield harvests.
Rapid deployment.
And while I'm doing that, I've generated some grenades and blow these guys apart too. 23% left in my team suicide strike. Don't bother with those big guys unless I have to. So 3 grenades. I got all my grenades back. 20.9 million on a traversal. Pretty good. I've gotten better than that before, but so I'm hitting a lot of melee too. Just have it, but that melee also generates shield, and well, I can drop grenades at the same time. And the thing about fire that I like is that when the enemies are on fire, they can't really do damage to you. They're so occupied by the fact that they're burning that they don't really damage you. They can't damage you until they stop burning. So that gives you another sort of safety net if you want. I have Deadshot. Now you see I'm getting hit, but look how I'm gonna try to stay here. I guess I won't be able to. Okay, I was gonna try to show you I was gonna stay there.
Okay. If I survive this, y'all are on your own.
Just to see how long I can stay alive. Sometimes I can stay alive for 30 seconds just because I'm generating shield from I'm getting constantly hit. Okay, I got hit again. I'm gonna try again. I guess. I was gonna try and show you again, but I guess I haven't been able to show you that just how long I could stay alive if I wanted to. With that melee perk that I have on my melee gear.
That is until I make you one of them.
Anyways, enough going
Pressure
around.
up
Let's
on
finish
Brainiac's
off the
forces,
mission.
TFX. We're hitting them where it hurts. Right in the numbers.
Going airborne.
You think you could just walk out
One of the things
here?
I'm very bad with directions.
Such hubris.
Sometimes I feel like I
This
go
way you
the wrong
die.
way sometimes. So I don't care about what gear I get, but I'm just gonna see in case. Nothing really that interesting going on in this episode. So basically what I do is I make my build
Y'all can look at
and
this
maybe
piece,
I'm
but don't
playing a
touch.
certain episode
Fingerprints.
to get some gear, and then after I finish that episode and get the gear that I want, maybe I'll go back and I'll see how this gear works in
Come
other
to
episodes.
Floyd.
That's what I've been doing. So all that Firefly stuff that I got was from the Killer Frost episode 3, the Firefly, and I played episode 3 for a while, and then I went to the other episode to see how this build would work, so and farm at the same time. So, okay, just to go over, I'll go over my build one more time before I say goodbye. So that's it. So the main weapon for spreading bullets essentially is the Master 5 Firefly's Power Maniac. Very important weapon in the build because it's a burn build, and every single critical hit, you can see that every critical hit here, firearm, they start to burn enemies. So this is one of the only weapons that I know of whose regular fire actually applies afflictions. There are a couple other ones, but this one applies burn right away. Every single critical hit applies burns, So I like that weapon a lot. And we'll come back to the synergies in a second, but the second one is a two-face. This is a nice weapon too, just on its own. It's a assault rifle as well. It gives the perk. The reason why, if you want to build the same type of build, you need a tier 2 two-face, just because of the first perk. So I use a tier 2 rather than a tier 3 or tier 4, which will still give you the synergies that you want, but it won't give you that first perk, which is, take 10% off their max health as damage. So I rarely use this weapon, but I can use it. For example, I explained to you before that the problem with the first weapon, the only issue is that you can't really shield harvest that well, because if you're constantly burning enemies, it takes away from your shield harvest abilities. But if you ever need shield harvest, you can switch to this weapon for now, for a bit, shoot them, and you'll get some shield harvest chance, and then you can shield harvest from there if you want to as well. So okay, so but I use this mainly for the synergy and for the first perk there. Third is the reverse flash. If you're doing a craze build, the two-face persuader might be better, but I use the reverse flash because for obvious reason with a burn build and also for the synergy. So you can see that if I go back to the Firefly, my Firefly assault rifle, you can see the fact that I have the two-face in my second gear slot there. We get Pyromania, which is a burning enemy dies within 20 meters of you. When he dies, which is a lot of burning enemies, you instantly regain 10% shield and 5% health. And there'll be a lot of enemies that die. So the level that I just showed you, tons of enemies were dying. I was generating shield, which is why I didn't die very much. Well, I died twice, but it was only because I was trying to show you guys how I could stay alive with my melee perk, but it didn't really work that well. But so each usually does work well though. So each time this happens, there's a 20% chance that you gain Pyromania, and this effect lasts for 30 seconds and increases your damage against burning enemies by 200. So you're getting the 50% from the Firefly Pyromaniac, just the gear itself. You're getting the perk of 200% on top of that for burning enemies as well, right? So that's another thing as well that you'll get when this gets activated, because you're going to be burning a lot of enemies with grenades, you see. So once you burn them, then you hit them with the Firefly weapon, burn again, because every bullet burns them. So the ones that aren't burned are going to get burned, and then you have 50% damage to burning enemies with this, and then to top that with a 200% on top of that, and now you're starting to see how the damage starts to collect. Okay. Oops, sorry, went out of it by accident there. So if we look then with the reverse flash gives us on top of that something called mental break. So each time you deal damage or take damage, which is pretty much often, 10% chance. So while the probability may not be that high, only 10% chance you suffer that mental break and get that 400% bonus. Every time you deal damage, there's a 10%. So the probabilities will increase every time you do damage. So they start to accumulate, and the mental break will hit very well. And then you have a 400% damage that you'll get. It makes you weaker because you can take more damage, but that 400% is a very good trade-off, especially with Deadshot, who flies around and very mobile. And then this if there's one weapon or one piece of gear that is not necessary to the build, but it's one of the most important, is the corrupted heat waves incendiary charge. You can use the regular heat wave incendiary charge. A lot of people like the firefire grenade. I used to use the firefire grenade, and it's nice. It spreads. The only thing I don't like about the firefire grenade is that it's a sticky, and it takes time before the explosion occurs, which means your enemies have time to shoot back at you before the grenade activates, which I don't necessarily like. Um, but that's okay too. That one will work too. But the heat wave incendiary charge, the regular one, only gives 250% damage and doesn't throw the enemies in slow motion. This one is 500% damage to enemies that are hit by the grenade, and it puts them in slow motion. So the thing that's key about this is that it disables the enemies. They can't fire back, you see. And while they can't fire back, you can do damage to them. You're juggling them. They're up in the air. It's slow motion. You might already be in your team suicide strike, or your suicide ultimate, I should say. And that's another thing too. When there's tons of enemies, the more you disable, the better it is for you, because you won't die as much. See. So that one's an excellent grenade. And that one you can obtain. I think it's you have to kill Brainiac, and you can do a kill Brainiac mission on episode 3, if I believe. But the best way now, if you have a lot of resources, is to now try to craft them with Penguin. It's going to cost you a lot of resources each time you try, and it's not guaranteed. But I got 4 or 5 of them. Now I use them. I have one for Joker. I have one for um, Harley. I have one for Deathstroke, and I think that's it. I might have one more after that, but I'm going to try to get them for any burn build that I'm going to use. I'm going to be trying to get them. So next one is this is like I said before, a lot of people aren't using this gear, and I find it very helpful. It's a good shield, first of all. I like the shield, even though I'm not going to use that craze perk that's there, because I'm not going to be crazed. I'm not going to be crazing enemies. I just like that first perk. You deal 4% more damage to any enemy for each 1% of their health is missing. So you could see how in that first mission with the big guys, with the destroyers, I was just slicing and dicing, and the damage numbers were going up. And a lot of that has to do with this, because, for example, it says you deal 4% more damage to an enemy for each 1% of their health that's missing. So at the beginning, when you're shooting into them, the health maybe this is not going to work so well. But once you get to, let's say, 25% of the health of your enemy that's missing, now you're doing 100% damage. Then when you do 50%, when you're at 50% of their health, now you're doing 200% damage. When they've lost 75% of your health, now you're getting into very high, 75 times 4, and now you're talking 300% damage. See? And that's why you saw those damage numbers go up, along with all the perks, the 50% extra chance or extra damage when burning, the mental break, the 400% damage, and then the other one, which is the Two-Face and Firefly one. So this is all accumulative damage, and these percent damages sometimes are more important than the 200% damage. What I mean is that if an enemy has 2 billion health points, and something takes away 10%, that's a lot of health points, you see. But if someone just takes away 100,000, if you do 100,000 damage on a bullet, 100,000 is not. It may seem like a lot, but it's not a lot on something that has, 2 billion health points or a billion health points. So that's why the more damage we kill, the more damage we do here. Which more damage the more, I should say, the more health that the enemy is missing, the more damage we can do to them. So I find that very helpful. And while you're using the Firefly, you can tear into it with 70 bullets at a time before you have to reload. So you can see each of my bullets some of them were doing 1.6, 1.7 million per bullet. So times 70, you're talking 112, 110, roughly 110 million in one mag. So that's pretty nice damage that you can do. This one too is a corrupted one. I used to use the turtle one, the focus one that gives you 500% damage while you're in the air. And then I got this one, and this one I find is significantly better. This is only really good for guys who are always constantly in the air all the time, like very much in the air. The reason why is because this the perk that you should be interested in is that one. Every second spent airborne increases damage dealt by 100% up to a maximum of 20. That means you have to stay in the air for 20 seconds pretty much straight. You can drop down for a split second and then pop back up if you want. But if you stay for a second, you lose that 20 right away. It doesn't count down 20, 19, or 2,000, 1,900, 1,000. It doesn't do that. What it does is that the minute you're grounded for more than a second, you lose all that count. The count up is gone, all of it. So that's the only problem with this. But I find it's very useful. Even if you go up for 10 seconds, which is, and then you drop down, 10 seconds gives you 1,000 points of damage already. So I find this is a key one. So imagine 2,000 percent damage in addition to all the burning damage that we're getting from all the other gear. This is a far better than the turtle one. And there's another one. I think it's the Vandal one that's corrupted as well, but I find this one better. This one can also be obtained from running Kill Brainiacs. I forgot which season, but again, also you can also get it from crafting as well. So I think you should farm a lot of resources and then try the take your chance with Penguin. And this one may seem like nothing. I put all the perks, obviously all grenade damage perks, which is nice, and the burning enemies again. But this one is necessary for my build anyway, just because of that first perk that each melee hit in an enemy has 50% to craze. The craze part, I don't really worry about that much, obviously, because I don't need to craze anything. But it's 50% chance to drop grenade ammo. So that's the key, because I melee a lot, and I get grenade ammo every second time. And sometimes, like I told you, I run into some bad luck. There might be a streak of maybe 7 or 8 melee hits, and I don't generate a grenade at all. It happens once in a blue moon, but I live with that. And I have my grenades, and I have other things that can do damage. So it's a really nice. I like this build a lot because of the. It has some versatility to it too. If I don't have any grenades, I can still do a hell of a lot of damage with the Firefly Pyromaniac when the enemies are burning. So. And the last one is the Lucky Charm. This one you maybe can play around with. There's some other ones maybe you can try playing with some synergies. So for example, if you put a Killer Frost, the only thing I don't like about, because I know a lot of people swear by Killer Frost and Reverse Flash, and there is a perk, and I'll show you. So I have a Killer Frost Lucky Charm here, just to show you. And I've tried this. The only problem with Killer Frost is not with the reverse is not with the Reverse Flash. That's a great synergy, to be honest. Okay, maybe you're wondering why it's not there, but I'm gonna just pick a Killer Frost here just to show you. I should have one anyway. I made one just in case. Yeah, this one. So I made Equilibrium with some nice perks, you can see. So I'm gonna add that. Now let's go back to my loadout, and you're gonna see now with the Killer Frost, there's one beautiful Reverse Flash and Killer Frost. You see, so now you can see I have more. I had this one already with the two-face Reverse Flash. Now that I put a Killer Frost item here, I have this. This is a nice perk. Okay, you now have 100% critical chance on burning non-victor enemies, but you lose 10% shield for each critical hit. So that 10% shield you can live with because I'm compensating by maybe my melee here, the 5% shield. I don't like losing shield every time I do damage, but it's still a pretty good damage mechanic. The problem is when you put Killer Frost together with Pyromaniac, you can see that I don't like this one at all. I find this one the worst synergy in the game, if you ask me. Each time you burn adds a stack of Ice Shard Inferno. When Ice Shard Inferno reaches 20 stacks, Ice Shards explode out of your body, but at the cost of 100% of your shield. This explosion freezes all enemies within 20 meters and damages all enemies hit for 5% of their maximum health. So the 5% of the maximum health, decent, but nothing great. The explosion freezes all enemies. That I don't want, because if I freeze a bunch of enemies, I've lost all my shield at this point, and all my perks are on burning enemies, not really on frozen enemies. So the frozen enemies immobilizes them, but I don't do as much damage anymore. So I tried this. I thought maybe it'd be nice having a few extra synergies, but those synergies really don't work with the Pyromaniac weapon. So alternatively, you can choose a different weapon instead of the Pyromaniac one, but I love this one a lot, and the fact that it burns on every single bullet, every single critical hit bullet. I think the Killer Frost is not for me anyway, for this build, not a good choice. Even though it gives a nice synergy with reverse flash, it doesn't give a great synergy with. In fact, to me, it gives a very bad synergy with the Firefly Pyromaniac. So that one no. There's Scarecrow as well. I think I tried Scarecrow. I don't remember, but just see if I have a Scarecrow. I think I have Thanatophobia or something. Yeah, here. So I tried Scarecrow to see if we have any good perks as well, or any good synergies. And I think it was Scarecrow, and I tried, I think, Hugo Strange. There is a good one with Scarecrow and Hugo Strange. I think it gives you 400% damage or something on afflicted enemies. But with Jinx, the thing I like about Jinx, even though it's not 100% sure that yours is going to get picked. Like for example, I'm looking for Diablo Blaze, you see. So there's a 1 1/4 chance because it'll cycle through these, you see. So you gain 7%, you get 50% increased damage to a specific affliction for 20 seconds. This effect rotates through the available afflictions in order. So you know, every 100 seconds or 80 seconds to 100 seconds, you'll get back to the one that you want, which is Diablo Blaze. So I think it's worth it personally. But even no matter what, you're still doing 250% increased damage to afflicted enemies no matter what anyway. So you're getting that right off the bat. The on top of that is if you're going to get an increased 750, which is 1,000% increased damage. So I stuck with this instead of using Killer Frost, because I didn't want to give away my my Master Firefly's Pyromaniac weapon, because that one's it's just too strong, and I don't think it's worth it for Reverse Flash. All right, guys, that's it. That's my Deadshot build, and appreciate comments and things like that. If I can put some comments and maybe have something better, or maybe you're using something better. So, like I said, just to end off, I've done all this solo. So I'm trying to work up to 1,000. I started playing in October, and I haven't really tried to get to 1,000 because I've been going through episode through episode. But I really enjoy this game a lot. I really enjoy putting together the builds together. So I hope you enjoyed this build. Have a good day, everybody. Bye bye.